In Declarative Schema, database tables are declared in XML in a file etc dbschema.xml. The XML format is pretty intuitive, as we will see. However, there are a few edge cases that are not that clear. In case you're not familiar with the word schema, in this context it refers to the tables and table relations in a database like MySQL, and this includes indexes and foreign key constraints. When a module declares a schema in an dbschema.xml file and bin Magento setup upgrade is executed, Magento will figure out the SQL required to either create the table, if it doesn't yet exist, or, if the table already is present, to modify it so it matches the XML declaration. If the table structure a module needs changes over time, then all that needs to be done is adjusting the XML to match the current requirements and executing setup upgrade again. This is a lot simpler and more robust than the previous procedural approach with setup scripts. For example, no comparing of versions, whether an upgrade needs to be applied or not, needs to be done anymore. Besides database tables and columns, modules might also require manipulating database table content. This requirement is too complex as to be expressed elegantly in XML. For that reason, Declarative Schema supports running PHP code conditionally with a system called data patches. We will cover data patches later. It's also possible that the module requires a schema that cannot be declared via XML. One such requirement might be adding or changing database triggers. For such cases, the system allows for PHP schema patches to be executed conditionally, in a similar way to data patches. Probably modules using Declarative Schema and other modules using setup scripts will coexist in any given Magento instance for a long time. Because of this, there are a couple of scenarios that the Declarative Schema system needs to support in order to integrate with setup scripts modules. For one, imagine an upgrade of a module that used to use setup scripts, but now uses Declarative Schema. In this case, only some of data or schema patches need to be applied, depending on the version of the module that already was installed before upgrading to Declarative Schema. Another scenario is that tables declared with Declarative Schema might need to be modified by other modules with setup scripts. For example, a module might add a column to the sales order table. The system has to take care that the additional column added by setup script won't be removed again immediately because it's not defined in the XML. Without going into details, because those will come later, to enable module upgrades from setup scripts to Declarative Schema, the system allows attaching a version to a data patch, so it can be compared against an existing installation of the module that used a setup version and setup scripts. And to allow setup scripts to add columns to tables that were created via Declarative Schema, an etc dbschema whitelist JSON file should be created for all modules using Declarative Schema. That file lists all the columns that were created by Declarative Schema, so the Declarative Schema system is allowed to drop them. However, if a column isn't listed here, the Declarative Schema system will not remove it, because it must have been added by a setup script. We will cover generating the whitelist and migrating modules to Declarative Schema in another video. This only was to give you a broad overview before we dive into the details.